Hi, welcome to the weekly deep dive integrated fascial release. Tonight we're going to be going over arms, shoulders, upper and mid back, and some pec release. Things that you will need, foam roller and a ball of some sort. So this is the whip ball. Something about this diameter, varying density. You could have something that's a little bit softer or a little bit firmer. So you're going to grab your foam roller and we're going to come down onto our back. You're going to have the roller behind you, right about, let's say, just above your lower ribs. So kind of mid back, feet are on the floor, your butt's on the floor, hands are interlaced behind your head. So we're going to do a static extension. So without lifting your butt and don't really rolling anywhere, you're just going to let your upper body extend back over the roller. And depending on how flexible you are in your thoracic spine, you may only go a couple inches. You may be able to go really far back. Take a big inhale, exhale, rounding back up. And I like to kind of pull my chin towards my chest and get a little bit of traction through my neck. And again, just do one more of the same spot. And you're not pushing into any pain. If it's like pinchy, then just go a little bit. If you can let yourself extend over the roller, maybe while you're back here, take your elbows wide and narrow. So just mobilize those shoulders a little bit. A couple breaths here. And then big inhale, exhale. I like to bring my elbows narrow and then round up through your upper back. And then you're going to lift your butt and roll the roller an inch or so higher on your back. And then just do the same thing again. So let yourself extend. Maybe you take those elbows in and out. Big inhale, exhale, rounding back up. So you're going to just go kind of at your own pace for a couple more sections, working your way up. And then it'll get to a point where you feel like it's kind of pointless. You can't really go back. So just do a couple. This is called static extension. So we're trying to get some mobilization of your thoracic spine into extension, right? Into that back bending. And then when you're done with those, keep your head supported, lift your butt up off the ground, and then just roll up and down through your upper back. So here we're just getting a little bit, kind of using the roller as like a massager. As you're rolling through your upper back, you can side bend a little bit, rotate, maybe really get under one shoulder blade. So you're just sort of using this to massage this whole upper section before we get in deeper with the ball. So just really let yourself breathe into this. Hang out in any section that you need to. Take some nice deep breaths into your ribs, into that back. And a lot of people will ask when you're doing this, like how far down you should go. I don't like to go much past your bottom ribs, because the further out you go, like if you were to roll all the way into your low back, you really have to start to support yourself with your abdominals, and it gets a little precarious for your low back. So for this part, just stick to your upper back. Take a couple more passes, and then you're going to work your way all the way down and let the roller come up so it's under your head like a pillow. And you can hold on to it if it feels like it's going to fly away. And then you're just going to kind of take your head side to side like you're saying no. So we're just sort of doing a quick pass of releasing these suboccipitals, the back of your neck, base of your skull. And you can add little chin tucks here, can feel kind of good. So just chucking your chin, lengthening the back of your neck. You can do that in neutral. You can do that with slight rotation. So we're just getting kind of a quick pass of this upper back to just get stuff started. Take a couple more breaths. And then we're going to come back up to sitting for a second. One more nice deep breath. And then you're going to come off that roller and back up to sitting. So that's kind of a lovely, as far as I'm concerned, something that you do every day. It's a nice way to, when we spend all day rounded forward on devices and everything else, it's a nice way to really open up your chest. So that could be a nice end of the day thing. And then we're gonna first kind of get into our pecs just fascially with our hands, and then we're gonna work down into our arms. But I just want to show you kind of what we're aiming for here. So here's your pecs, right, in the front of your body. This is your sternum in the center. It's called your manubrium. And then you've got your clavicles that run out either side. So we're going to essentially start right here, and I'll walk you through it, right at your manubrium or right at the top of your sternum. And then we're going to walk out along each clavicle and just kind of fascially get into this tissue. So you're going to use your fingers and kind of the pads of your fingers, right? So you're kind of a flat hand. I want you to feel that notch in the center, and I'm going to use both hands. I'm going to kind of have them on either side of the notch of my sternum, and tuck your chin a little bit so that the tissue is on slack. And you're going to kind of we're kind of just getting into skin, right? So I want you to pull down, press your fingers in and pull down towards your belly button till you can kind of take up all the slack, right? Keep that tension and then slowly look up towards the ceiling. And you should feel a lot of pull all through this neck into there's a muscle that runs all the way up in the front. And then you can just repeat that. Drop your chin. Again, grab that tissue, pull down. And then you can experiment a little bit with some turning of your head. So you start to look up, and then maybe you go off to the right. And then again, taking up the slack, looking up, maybe you go to the left. It's just a really, again, all this time that we spend looking down, right? If you can imagine, let's do maybe one more in the center here, how tight all this tissue gets. Good. And then we're going to start to work off to this side. So let's go off to the right. So you're just going to, essentially, we're going to work all the way along our clavicle. So your clavicle runs this way. So I'm just coming, whatever, an inch over. I'm actually pushing my fingers onto my clavicle and starting to pull down from there, and tuck your chin to start, and then take up the slack. And then you're going to go up towards the ceiling, but we're going to then look away to the left. So you're going to rotate over. And just let yourself kind of experiment, right? You can maybe rotate more and then look up a little more. You can side bend some. Ugh. And then again, maybe you do like 2 or 3, depending on how it feels in that same section. And then you would work your fingers out to the right another inch or so. And we're just going to work all the way along this clavicle. And there's lots of, we're doing this with our fingers, but you could certainly you could take the ball and use it as your gripper. The nice thing about the whip ball is it has a lot of grippiness to it. So you could pin the tissue with the whip ball and use that and give your fingers a rest. Oh, so good. So as you're doing this, and we're just sort of slowly working your way out, I want to just talk to you about a couple things. So we've got this connective tissue, right? You've got this fascial web all throughout your system, from just underneath your skin all the way down to the level of the bone. It's literally surrounds every cell in your body. So it is all connected, first and foremost. Most important thing to remember. So all of this stuff that we're releasing plays a role all the way up into your neck, into your jaw, into all the way down your arms and your hands, down into your diaphragm. Nothing is isolated. So we're just going to start to really think in that way, right? About you may have discomfort in one place, but you're never ever going to be simply thinking about that one place. And the rules for all of this, and I'll talk about it as we get as we start to do deeper and deeper work, the rules are you should always be able to breathe into it. If whatever you're doing is so intense that you're like bracing against it and holding, it's too much. You need to back out of it a little bit, put less pressure, don't push as hard, move to a different spot. And then if you can, breathe into it and relax into it, even if it's intense, as you're holding it, it should lessen in intensity. So those are my two big rules. So let's maybe do one or two more little pulls on this right side, and then we'll shift to the left. I don't know about you guys, but like I feel this all the way up into like my ear, my jaw. So good. So anybody's got any TMJ stuff, like just know that this is all connected. And it can be like, and depending on what you've done, right? If you're working out and you've done a bunch of push-ups and a bunch of planks, like your pecs are gonna be tight. And so that's gonna affect all of this other stuff. So just always, kind of take into account what's been happening in your life, the positions and the postures you've been in. Okay, let's shift to that left side. So just off, and if your fingers are tired, try the ball. It's kind of nice to have a break from pushing with your fingers. So you're just going to work onto that left clavicle, essentially, right? Right off from the sternum. Drop your head at first, take up the slack, and then slowly working in to that extension. And think about your breath here too, right? I mean, always, hopefully, but as you breathe and take deep breaths, these ribs right up here at the top need to be able to elevate and then also come back down. So when you take a deep breath, you should actually feel some resistance increase in those ribs there, and you can kind of hold against it. And then as you exhale, take up the slack and pull and let those ribs release. And you have, just so you know, we're not going to dig super, super deep into these pecs. The stuff we're doing right now is a little bit more superficial, but just so you know, you have a structure in here called your brachial plexus. So there's nerves and arteries that come down out of your neck that run down and kind of bisect your armpit. Like if you were to stick your fingers right up into your armpit, they're right in there. And it's all the nerves and arteries that run into your upper extremities. So not totally uncommon, especially if you get a little bit deeper with the ball, but to feel sometimes some like tingling, numbness tingling happening in your arm, okay. It's one of those things I would just say to you, like, okay, just sit with it a little bit, maybe take the pressure off, move your arm around. If it comes right back, no big deal. It's just from the pressure you're putting on it. But it's one of those things that, you don't want to necessarily like sit on it and crank on it. And if it's getting worse, obviously that's not kosher with our rules, right? So slowly working your way out along that clavicle. Working with your rotation, maybe some side bending. You could also, and didn't say this on the other side, but you could certainly do a little bit of mobilization of your arm. You can take that arm out to the side and kind of feel into where that pec is. You can go back behind you. And we'll just take maybe another minute or so on this side. So just slowly working your way out. And I say in all my classes, but it's totally valid and true. I break things up for the sake of a class to like give you parcel it out, but it is all connected. And my aim for people is to eventually like have all of these kind of have the knowledge of how to roll out throughout your entire body and essentially follow the tension, right? So we may only be doing this upper part, but it might be like, oh, I'm rolling this part out and now I'm feeling like this pull in my diaphragm and I need to go down into my hip. And I mean, you know, we're breaking it up, but it never is actually broken up. So just a couple more breaths. And then when you're done, maybe you take the ball, set it down, just roll the shoulders around a little bit, maybe do a little bit of neck range of motion. We could just check in, chin to chest, maybe up towards the ceiling, back to neutral, rotate one way, then the other. So just sort of feeling, technically we should have done a little bit of comparison in the beginning. It's always good to compare before and after. So I want to do just a little bit of forearm release while we're in this position and sitting, and then the rest of the time we're going to get to lay down, get off of our seated places. So we're going to kind of go down here. We're not going to do a full on forearm release, but I want to just kind of touch on the main veins so we get a little bit of arm. So all of your muscles, tendons, nerves, everything from your hand come up through your wrist and attach up at your elbow. So the main thing I want you to understand is if you have anything happening in your hands, your wrists, your forearms, elbows, certainly, but this is your zone. Like you won't have to touch base up here. So you can use the ball, right? You can like take this ball and do the same thing we were doing, where you do some dragging. One of my favorite ways to get into this is to actually use my opposite elbow. So you're just going to try to lean, press that elbow into that forearm. You can dig with the pointy bit of your elbow, or you can use your like flatter forearm. And since we're just doing sort of a quick and dirty, little bit of blood flow, a little bit of release, we're not taking the time, but sometimes I'll put like a little bit of lotion, tiny bit, because you still want to have that sticky grippiness. And for those of you that have taken my the other classes where we focus just on the arms, we go into like, I show people, I mean, I will use the arms of my office chair. So I'll like just drag my forearms along the office chair. It's a really great, or people use like a countertop. You can start to get really creative, but you're essentially just looking to mimic this release, right? What this feels like. And I've tried probably everything there is to try. I've tried the foam roller, I've tried all this stuff. And this is just the one that I find works the best. It's like certainly awkward and, tricky to get into a little bit, but you can also, what we're doing right now with the dragging is a little bit more of this fascial shearing. It's like this deep shearing of the fascial layers, which is different than just straight up pressure. So you can, you can take the ball and do, more of this kind of quick rolling it around near the elbow in those forearms. You could try doing just some pressure. I just feel like the shearing with my other arm just feels usually like what I need the most. And we're just focusing from the elbow down for starters, because when we lay down in a second, we're going to get those upper arms. And you're trying to kind of think about both sides. And again, the other side is a little trickier to get in this position, but maybe the ball. So you want to get this underside of the forearm as well. And if you are a person that has any like carpal tunnel, any wrist issues, any hand issues, this is absolutely your zone that you need to release. So let's give this maybe another minute or so. The other nice thing to do is to shake your hands out. Like if you have wrist and hand stuff, like I will do this forearm release and then I will just like shake my arms out. Maybe do some in and out with your fingers, getting the blood flowing, circles. Yes, like Kate's doing. There's all sorts of like nice stretches for these. But I just wanted to get a little bit of blood flowing and show you a couple techniques. Our focus is not necessarily these lower arms. We're going to kind of keep it more up into this zone. So where we're going now, we're actually going to start right above these guys. So just so you have a really quick picture of your tricep in the back, right? And then your deltoid. And then this is the same in the front, right? You have kind of the cap of your deltoid bicep in the front. So we're essentially going to lay down, and I'll walk you through it, but we're going to take the ball and we're really just like going to work systematically up this entire arm, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're going to get all the way up to like where your arm meets your shoulder. We're going to do the other side, and then we're going to dive into our upper traps, shoulders, upper back, all that good stuff. So come down onto the floor on your back, have your ball. And let's go on the right side so we're all together. And you're going to take the ball, place it on the floor, and then just put your elbow. So I'm kind of actually right at my elbow, right on the outside of my elbow. I'm externally rotated in my arm. And if you have shoulder stuff, you can have your arm like closer down toward your body, or you can have it right out at 90 degrees. And then you're just going to start to kind of put some gentle pressure and just slowly roll that ball back and forth. We're just going to start to release kind of the outside of that elbow. And then you can start to move. So I'm taking my hand then up towards the ceiling, and even then back down, like I'm going in almost like a figure 8. Right above my elbow. And the more you can work through flexion extension of your elbow. So say you get on kind of a good spot where you're like, oh, especially kind of back by your tricep, like the back of your arm. If you get on a spot back there, and then you can take that elbow in and out. You're taking that tissue through different levels of tension. So you're just we're just going to really slowly work our way up your arm. And we're mostly on the back side of your arm where your tricep is to the outside of your arm, right? We're not really getting this inner section of our arm, right? You may come to kind of the edge of it, but we're not really going to roll like on this inside part of your arm. There's not as much happening there as far as muscles and stuff. You've got your bicep in the front. If you think about your arm in like the 4 directions of your arm, right? You've got your bicep in the front, you've got kind of your deltoid, and where things kind of come together on the outside, you've got your tricep in the back. But on the inside, there's not any like real pronounced layers of muscle. There's just kind of a lot of more sensitive, that's where all those nerves and arteries travel. And so it's just a little more sensitive area that I don't necessarily think we need to roll on. So just slowly working your way up your arm. Breathing into it. And again, there's kind of different ways you can think about the release of this fascial tissue. You can think about just direct pressure, right? So if you were to just sort of set the ball under an area and just hang out there, you're sort of just putting this pressure through all of those layers of connective tissue. And there's absolutely benefit in that. But then there's also shearing of those layers, right? Like what we were doing with our forearms is definitely like, think about taking one layer on top of another and shearing them in opposite directions. So you can sort of intentionally try to get some of that shear while you're on this arm, right? You can kind of pin the tissue, you put weight through the ball, and then the ball sort of stays where it is, and you spin your arm, and it sort of pulls on those fascial layers. And so then you're getting a little bit more of that shearing, not just this pressure. And all of this is aimed at hydrating the tissue, releasing any adhesions in these fascial layers. So I believe that a lot of times injury occurs because there is too much tension in the system. So if you picture all of that tissue being connected, right? So let's say you injured your elbow. And so now you have all this wound up tension at your elbow, and it's pulling on that web of connective tissue. And so as it reaches up into your shoulder, it's putting all this extra tension through your shoulder. And so then when you're trying to like reach up to grab something off the top shelf, it's not gliding and moving with ease like it should. And it's pinching and pulling and compressing. And so you really have to check in with all of the tension in the system. So you're going to work your way all the way up to that deltoid, that shoulder cap area. So just kind of getting all the way up to where your humerus, your arm bone, meets your body, essentially. And these will overlap a little bit, so we'll kind of get into this when we get into our shoulder. But for now, that's kind of where we're headed. Maybe take like another couple minutes working your way up on this side. There's usually an area kind of mid upper arm on the outside, right where your deltoid, where all those three deltoid muscles come together and attach on your humerus. That can be pretty intense. And so just always remembering your rules. You should be able to breathe into it, relax into it. And even if it's intense, it should lessen in intensity as you're hanging out there. If it's just getting worse and worse, it's not the right spot. It all so much depends on the state of your tissue, right? If you're in a really flared up, injured, inflamed state, you're going to be way less tolerant to this kind of stuff. And so you just need to really, this is all about really learning your own system and what it can handle and what it needs in any given moment. So it might be that, using the ball, if you have an injury or something happened, is just too much. And it might just be your hand is all that it can take right then, or that doing this against the wall where there's just some really light pressure is what it needs, for a couple of days. And then you can dig in a little deeper. So maybe another few breaths on this side, and then we're going to switch. Couple more breaths wherever you need to be. And then when you're ready, same thing. We're just going to switch that left side back down by your elbow. And then same thing, right? You're just starting down at that elbow. And just so you know, general rule, I always encourage people to at least check in with both sides and with all the different areas, but this is absolutely your time for rolling, and everyone's body is different. So if you check in with this left side and you're like, nope, it's totally fine. It was my right side that's the issue. By all means, go back to your right side. But sometimes there are sneaky areas of tension that we don't even know were there. So don't ever just completely ignore one side. Check in with it and see how it is. But by all means, go where you need to go. So again, you're down by that elbow, you're on the back part of your arm, the outside of your arm. Maybe you're working with some flexion, extension of that elbow to get your tricep moving. You can rotate that arm. Breathing. The other thing that I want to kind of distinguish and talk about is the difference between what I refer to as doing versus receiving. So sometimes when we roll, we have this tendency to like do, really push and dig and like, you know, oh, I want to cram the ball in there and it feels really good and everything's kind of activated. And it's okay to do that a little bit to sort of find the place and maybe dig in a tiny bit. But then I want you to also see if you can't just receive the ball. This will be really more poignant when we get into our upper back and stuff where you're putting your body weight on the ball. But it's really crucial that you intentionally try to melt under the ball and really there's so much power in our focus and our attention and our intention. So when you really let yourself kind of get into where the ball is mentally, right? Kind of get inside your body and really start to feel that tissue and picture it melting and releasing and opening and blood flow increasing and receiving, right? Receiving what that tool that you're using has to offer, whether it's the foam roller or a ball or your hand or the body worker or whatever. So you're slowly working your way up along that arm. Breathing. And just maybe taking note every once in a while of the tension in the rest of your body. Sometimes we like to help other places, right? Your hands, your jaw, your feet, your glutes. Everything is very intimately connected. So sometimes you'll get into one spot and there's a place that always wants to tense up in response to it. And if you notice, like if you get on one spot and it's triggering tension somewhere else, like I always, I mean, I'm used to working with my hands as a body worker, but I will put my hand there. So like right now, for some reason, the right side of my neck is feeling stuff. And so I would just, take my hand and just maybe put some gentle pressure, on the right side of my neck, or is it in your pec or wherever, if it's easily accessible with your other hand. Sometimes it's nice to just give some feedback. So just keep slowly working your way up that arm. I've gone and made it too cold now in my office. We'll take maybe another couple of minutes working your way up that arm, all the way up to where your arm attaches into your shoulder. And always paying attention side to side, right? Just taking note. And so much of this is about really getting a sense of what your baseline is, what your body feels like on any given day, so that you can much more easily know when it's off or when it's tight or when it's irritated or inflamed. So you're really just trying to, notice like, oh yeah, it's always my right side that's tighter, or, starting to really get to know your body in that way. About 1 more minute on this side. So just kind of working your way up. And again, we'll touch on this a little bit as we come into our shoulder. So if there's a little bit of a zone that you feel like you're not done with, it's okay. We can kind of come back to that. And then last couple of breaths. And then I don't know what position you're in or if you care to look at this, but I want to just show you where we're going with the ball next. So we're gonna hang out. We're gonna start in this like upper trap, kind of the big meaty center of your upper trapezius. And then we're gonna slowly work our way down through our rhomboids. So you're gonna kind of come down this groove in between your spine and the spine of your shoulder blade. And then we're gonna work around out to the side and kind of back up through this whole rotator cuff. We're gonna do this sort of out and around trajectory, and I'll walk you through it. So same thing, you're on your back, knees are bent, feet are flat on the floor. So let's go back to our right side. You're gonna kind of place that ball just underneath on the right side. So you just kind of tuck it. You want to stay up high because we'd like to be in your upper trap, but you want it to be under you as well. And then just breathe there for a couple breaths. So really letting yourself receive that ball. See if you can't just melt a little bit. And then let's just do a couple turns of your head. So you're going to look to the right on the same side that that ball is on. And then come back up. And then maybe one more time, just rotating. And then back up. And then you're going to start with a little bit of pressing through your feet. So push into your feet like you're trying to push your body up towards your head. And then relax. So you should feel, so this can be as gentle or as intense as you want it. You can push gently, or you can go all the way up into a bridge and really drive that ball into your shoulder and then relax out of it. So that pressing in and releasing is really important. Think about it like a sponge. We're really trying to kind of compress the tissue and then release it. And then the other thing you're going to start to play with is your arm. So go ahead, take that right arm. You can go up towards the ceiling. You can go all the way up overhead. And then you can combine any of these. So you're going to just kind of move your arm around. You could go out to the side. You could go across your body. Whatever feels good. You could go up overhead with your arm and push into your feet. And release out of it. So maybe just a couple more here, and then we'll start to work our way down through that center groove. So then you're going to take the ball and kind of push it down underneath you more. So you're going to work down through the center. You're not on your spine. You're not on the spine of your scapula. You're kind of right in between those two. So maybe like an inch off center and a couple inches down from the top of your shoulder. And same thing, we're going to kind of repeat this over and over again. You take a couple breaths, relax into it. You start to work with your feet, right? You can press into your feet. You can pull into your feet. So you're scooting your body down a little bit. You can move your arm in any direction. You can just hang out here. If this is your spot and this is super intense, it might be that it's enough just to be here. And this is, if this is intense, there's different ways to kind of mitigate this. If you can't breathe into this and this is way too much, you could try doing this against the wall. You could try a softer ball. You could try a smaller ball. There's lots of kind of ways to sort of change this so that you stay in those rules that are, you should be able to breathe into it and relax into it. And then even if it's intense, it should lessen in intensity, right? And then just kind of at your own pace, we're slowly working our way down. So you sort of release one spot, move it down an inch or so, repeat, moving different places. The other thing that can be kind of nice in this zone is to take your knees side to side. So maybe let them fall off to one side or the other. It introduces a little bit of rotation through your spine. And then you're really keeping in mind that idea of that fascial web all connected, right? Maybe I'm letting my right arm go up overhead and I'm letting my knees go off to the left and really feeling this opening through that whole side. The other thing to note through this zone is that this is right along these grooves on either side is where your ribs come in and attach into your thoracic spine. So there's a joint on either side at each segment, at each vertebra, at each rib, right? And so those joints have a joint capsule, they have ligaments, they have synovial fluid. They need motion for health, right? To exchange toxins out, to let nutrients come in, to move that synovial fluid. And so you can think about how probably infrequent, unless we do a lot of kind of intentional motion here, but that those joints aren't getting a ton of motion. So this can be really great just for the health of all of these joints, for your respiration, for the mobility of your thoracic spine. So again, just slowly working your way down through this middle back, moving in whatever way feels right. Breathing. As you start to get down towards the base of your shoulder blade, just know, first of all, that this is usually a pretty tight area. So it might be a little more intense here. And then you're gonna kind of swing out to the side, right? We're gonna, when we get down around the base of that shoulder blade, you're gonna kind of let the ball go out to the right a little more. And we're gonna get a little more into that latissimus, into your lats, into your ribs, into your serratus. There's a lot going on here. Really work with your breath, maybe work with that arm up overhead if you can. And then you're slowly working back up into the back of that whole shoulder, right? So essentially all the rest of it that we haven't really touched on yet is your rotator cuff. So you're just kind of slowly working your way back up. You're searching around, whole back of that shoulder, and eventually sort of connecting back up to where we ended with the upper arm. Just know there's a lot of trigger points in this area, so there's sometimes a lot of places that'll feel pretty intense. Just remember your rules. And it's helpful to remember that that web is all connected. So if you get on a spot that's so intense you can't hang out there, that's okay. Move off of it by an inch, and releasing something right next to it is absolutely going to release the tension an inch over, right? It's so very connected. If you get towards the back of that rotator cuff, back of that shoulder, and you want to experiment with, you can sometimes come to side lying and get the ball kind of in that back of your armpit. So kind of the back half of your armpit. And I like to have that arm up overhead. If you've got that range, you could try having it out to the side. If you have shoulder stuff where this is like pinchy, then this is not necessarily the position that I would encourage you to be in. I would just stick with being on your back. But if you feel like you can, the area that I'm in when you're inside lying is essentially like this hole. If you were to bisect your armpit and grab that back half of it, so then you would take the ball and kind of place it all along any of this zone and be on your side. It can be a really lovely deep release into this rotator cuff. And I find that this is sort of ground zero for a lot of shoulder issues. That being said, not necessarily for like traumatic actual injuries to your shoulder. But if it's like a slow onset where you're not really sure what happened, it's just creeped up over time, it's slowly getting tighter and tighter. Now you've got some kind of pinching and pain in the front of your shoulder, top of your shoulder. This zone is usually kind of where I find that things really start, deep in your rotator cuff, in your posterior, inferior rotator cuff, and your capsule of your shoulder. And so getting in here and releasing this can be really important, because when it's restricted, it doesn't allow the proper glide of your shoulder joint. And so you start to get some impingement. So let's maybe do another minute or so on this side, and then we'll get into our other side. Breathing. And I know that everyone is, that's taking this class is hopefully pretty present and staying right here in your body, but I want to really stress how important that is. I give the example of like when you go to get body work, hopefully the person is good at what they're doing and they are present with your body. They are like, they're checking in and they're reading your tissue every moment and adjusting their pressure and adjusting what they're doing. But when you do this kind of work, you're the body worker, right? So you cannot check out. You can't just like zone out, and that's how people overdo it when you're not paying attention and you just kind of like whatever, put the TV on and dig and dig and dig and disconnect from this. That's when you're going to get up off the ball and be like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like I went way too deep. Because this is real. This is very, very powerful work. And you have to have respect for it. You have to be present. So take a couple last breaths on that side, finish up whatever needs it. And then we're going to dive into that left side. So when you're ready, if you had been on your side, back on your back, we're just going to do the same thing, right? So you're back up in that upper trapezius on the left. So you just kind of get that ball underneath you, right where your neck meets your shoulder. Settle in for a couple of breaths. Intentionally bring your awareness there. See if you can't really melt. And then maybe you do a couple turns of your head to the left and back up. Just check in there a couple of times. And then you can start with all of your other things, right? You press into your feet. You either just press a little bit or you can push all the way up into a bridge. You can work with your arm up overhead, out to the side, whatever. Just let yourself be guided. You're just looking for the tension in the system, and everyone's going to be different. And your body is going to be different depending on what you've done, what exercises, what postures, what positions, what stressors you're under. The other thing that I really want you to remember, and then hold on that thought for a second. We're just slowly working our way down, right? So just sort of let yourself go ahead at your own pace. You're going to just slowly work down that groove in between your spine and the spine of your shoulder blade. Working with all of your variants, right? So your legs can go side to side. You can push or pull into your feet. You can take your arm. And then you're really always working with your breath, taking big, deep breaths. So the thing I was going to say is that I really want you to keep in mind too, that the state of your tissue, literally our bodies are different every moment of every day. Like this body is not the same body that will come to this class next week. And it depends on so many factors, right? So a lot of people that say like, oh, I did this release this one time and it was amazing and it totally fixed everything and it was great. And then I tried it again, whatever, a month later, and it didn't work at all. Like, so just keep in mind that there are so many things that affect us and our bodies. It's the state of your tissue and your fascial web and everything it's about what you are eating. It's about how much sleep you've gotten. It's about how hydrated your tissue is. It's about what kind of stress you're under. It's like all the layers, all the factors contribute to what's happening at any given moment. So this is just one tool in hopefully a big toolbox. So you sort of just throw things at the wall until something works, right? If you roll out and that's not cutting it, then maybe you need to get your journal out and write. Maybe you need to go for a walk and sit in nature. Maybe you need to sleep or meditate or eat different, or like who knows, drink a giant glass of water, or like, there's so many things to factor in. So just always keep that in mind. So you're slowly working your way down that groove. Maybe knees side to side, working with your arm, breathing. As you get towards the base of that shoulder blade, remember we're sort of circling down and then out a little bit. And then eventually working back up into that back of the rotator cuff. So all of the muscles of your rotator cuff, I'll show you for a sec. So it's on here, but all these muscles of your rotator cuff attach at the spine of your scapula and then kind of fan out and come out and around and hold your shoulder, your humerus in place, right? So they come in and they attach around, they wrap around the front of your outside and the front of your shoulder. And so a lot of times when we, like your head of your humerus sits in the socket, and there's a space above it where all these tendons sit, and then the bone at the top. So there's this gap that needs space, especially if you get your arm up to 90 degrees and above 90 degrees, right? Your head of your humerus needs to glide down in the socket to make space so that it doesn't pinch. And what happens when all of your rotator cuff muscles are tight, it like sucks it into the socket, and you lose what's called this accessory glide. So you lose this motion of your shoulder to glide down in the socket and make space. And that's when people start to get pinching, when you get especially 90 degrees and above, right? And so getting in and really releasing all of these rotator cuff muscles can be so crucial to the pinch that can start to happen. And granted, there are so many levels of this, right? There is just the beginning parts, and then there's like, oh, I actually have whatever, a torn rotator cuff, or I have, adhesive capsulitis or frozen shoulder. I mean, there's so many levels and layers. And so I would say, if you are a person that has some pinching happening, sure, start here, start with this. If it's not doing anything, and certainly if it's getting worse, if you're getting numbness, tingling, if you're getting radiating pain, if you're losing strength, like any of those things, go have somebody check it out. Like, get imaging done, find out what's happening. It might need some other levels of treatment, but this is a good place to start. And kind of, no matter where you are, in my opinion, it is always beneficial to release these tissues and get blood flowing, because the circulation is first and foremost for healing, right? So you have to have hydration, you have to have circulation and blood flow in order for things to heal. So this can be a really great way to, get the blood flowing in these tissues. So you're hopefully now working your way around in that rotator cuff. You could certainly come up onto that side, get into the back of that armpit, essentially. Breathing. We'll take maybe another couple of minutes on this side. So wherever you need to be, if you feel like it was in your upper trap that was the zone, you can certainly go back to that. Anywhere you need to be. And a lot of people will ask how often to do this kind of thing. The more superficial things with the foam roller, so like we're going to do one more foam roller thing at the end, but like the rolling that we did in the beginning and the one we're going to do at the end, as far as I'm concerned, every day, you could do this multiple times a day. That's a very superficial kind of more gentle release. This deeper stuff, think of it like deep tissue. Think of it like going to get a deep tissue massage. And so you wouldn't necessarily go get a deep tissue massage every day. So, and it all totally depends on how used to this kind of body work your body is. The more you do this, the more your tissue kind of gets used to it. But I would say, like, as a general rule, you're likely, if you don't do this very often, going to be pretty sore from the stuff we do. Hopefully sore in a better way, like I got work done sore. But try to let the soreness go away before you dig back in there. So maybe 2 or 3 days at least. Give it a little while. You could go deeper in another place. Maybe the next day you go into your hip or whatever. But yeah, you don't need to go in here over and over and over again. I would say maybe a cadence of like once a week, but really, my goal for people is that you have these tools so that you can get into these areas in a deep way when you need to, right? So you use movement as your barometer, right? So maybe you have a movement practice, you've got your yoga or your stretches or Pilates or whatever it is you're doing every day, where you're literally going through, like I say to people, move every joint, every direction, every day. Like, try to move everything in every way that it goes, but pay attention to it. And if it needs releasing, release it. Like if you do child's pose and you're like, oh my God, my shoulder is so tight, don't ignore it. Make time to get down on the floor and do the deep release. And then once you've done that deep release, hopefully that's it. You maybe don't need to do that until you did some crazy core workout and flare it up again and have to do it again. Okay, take your last couple of breaths wherever you are on that side. And then when you come off of there, we're going to grab our roller. I want to show you a nice chest opener on the roller. So Kate, we're going to do the pec opener on the roller. I don't know how this is going to feel for your shoulder. Just do what you can. Like maybe you just go up towards the ceiling and don't open up all the way. So you're going to lay on the roller lengthwise. So you're going to have it underneath your tailbone, underneath your head. So everything is supported on the roller, right? Don't have your tailbone hanging off. Don't have your head hanging off the roller. Your feet are flat on the floor. Knees are bent. So let's take those arms up towards the ceiling. Palms are facing each other. Back of your neck is nice and long. So sort of tuck your chin gently. So then you're just going to inhale. I want you to press both hands up towards the ceiling. Let your shoulder blades slide apart. And then keeping those arms straight, you're just going to let those shoulders get heavy back down towards the floor. Sort of let your shoulder blades hug the roller. And then inhale up. Exhale. So you're just sliding those shoulder blades on your rib cage, essentially. This is also activating the muscles a little bit that we just moved and created some space. Last one, inhale, and then exhale. And then one arm at a time, you're going to take that right arm up overhead towards the floor. And then back up towards the ceiling. Not going into any pinch, and then go with the left arm. So we're going to alternate. This is just a nice mobility exercise for your shoulders. So if you have some pinching, just stay out of it, right? Only go as far as you can, staying out of the pinch. And then you're going to go both arms together. Inhale, up overhead. Breathing. And then back up towards the ceiling. Last one, inhale. And exhale. And then on this last one, we're going to go into our pec stretch. So you come, inhale, arms up overhead. If you can, let them be heavy to the floor, palms face the ceiling, and then you slowly open up through your chest, chicken wings, right? So you're just slowly working your way down. You should feel a really lovely stretch through your chest, through your pecs. And you just slowly work your way down till your arms come back down by your side, and then you do the same thing again, up overhead. And so then just hang out wherever you need to, right? Like maybe you get halfway down and this feels like a really great stretch, and you just want to be there. Just be there. If this is super intense, if you're really tight in your pecs, sometimes just laying on the floor and doing this is enough. I will have people roll up a towel and put it underneath their spine in place of the roller, because the roller is definitely, gets you up off the floor a lot and really puts you into an intense stretch. So if this is just way too much and your arms are like way up off the floor, start more mellow. But this is a lovely, so this and the exercise that we did in the very beginning, the 2 roller exercises where you go into extension over the roller, in my opinion, every single day at the end of the day. Just have your roller in front of your couch or wherever you chill out at night and just slither onto the floor and do a couple of these things. This is just about getting some blood flow, getting some circulation, opening up. We spend so much time in this forward place. So really getting everything to open up can be really crucial. So take a last couple of breaths. And then the other really important thing, and I sort of alluded to it when we did the scapular kind of pushing, but to re-engage muscles after you do a deep release like we just did is really important. So when you're ready, come off the roller. We're just going to come onto all fours and just do a couple little cat-cows just to kind of get these muscles firing. So what we did, we went in there and we really kind of changed the state of all of the tissue, right? All of our upper traps and our rotator cuff and our arm muscles. So come into your all fours position, hands under shoulders, knees under your hips. Take an inhale, exhale. Just let yourself press everything up towards the ceiling, rounding. Really engaging through that upper back, press up towards the ceiling, and then reversing. So just go ahead at your own pace through a couple cat-cows. Maybe you add some side bending, some rotation. But what we're doing is just giving a little bit of feedback, teaching these muscles how to fire with this new space that we made. So we're really kind of re-engaging. Take one more big breath each way. So really, really important when you do deep release like this, do something to get the muscle firing, right? If you're doing your glutes, do a couple bridges. If you're, whatever area you're doing, wake it up a little bit with some stability stuff. Doesn't have to be a ton. It just has to like kind of get the muscle firing before you jump back up. Good work, team. And then always a lot of water, extra water. After you do this kind of stuff, you might be a little bit sore.